Peace. So I got up today and I was prompted to make a video blog and talk about witchcraft and the history of witchcraft because it's really interesting. And I always been people that know me for many years know that I always been into witchcraft. I always been into the history of witchcraft. And yeah, I'm into Christianity. I like Jesus. I like Buddhism, and I like all different spiritual paths and everything. And I'm a follower of a lot of different paths, but I'm a follower of also witchcraft as well. Like I don't practice witchcraft. I'm not in the coven. I don't spell cast and so on and so forth and everything. But I'm really obsessed with the history of witchcraft, and also I feel that I am a natural witch actually. And I think that you could be a Christian or Buddhist or Muslim and still be a natural witch. To be a natural witch just means to be a natural person. Like there's this term called hedge witchery, and basically hedge witchery. That's they also call those people kitchen witches, and you could be a male, female, doesn't matter what you are, or a non-binary. You could be anything and associated with that label and stuff. And I think that that's probably the most magical of all the labels, the hedge witch and stuff. So I think I fall into that category. A lot of people who are really creative, a lot of people who artists fall into that category and stuff. And even though yeah, I love Jesus, I follow Jesus, I believe Jesus and everything, I somehow believe and think in my soul that Jesus was a witch, for the simple fact that he was crucified for the crime of blasphemy. And the crime of blasphemy, if you translate it from the old Aramaic language, it actually means witch. That's actually literally what blasphemy means. It means a person that's casting a spell over people. So in a lot of respects, Jesus was crucified for the crime of witchcraft, actually, for pulling the supposedly war over people's lives and putting them in a spell, and hence developing followers that follow him, and to this day still follow him. And so that's considered witchcraft. And so I always consider Jesus witchcraft, and I consider the most beautiful things about Jesus is the fact that he was a witch, and the fact that he understood feminism and its true essence and everything. Because this is this is new feminism this in America right now, this sweeping America. They've been around for a while, and it's obviously tied into the whole woke movement and everything. And I think that that type of feminism is a feminism that was allowed to manifest itself through the permission of men, the male dominant world that controls everything and that gives permission to entities to develop. I think that that's how this whole movement started. And I know people don't like that, and people probably think like, what do you mean, and don't understand what I'm trying to say. But it's very easy to understand. I understand it to be true and everything. And what I mean by there's a feminism that existed hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and that feminism was way different than the feminism of today. And I'm not saying the feminism today is bad or negative or any way, or I'm not saying there's no validation in it, but I'm saying it was almost two different type of realities or entities, and the entity that I want to talk about is the entity of the past, it's the feminism of the past. And it's also tied into like what's going on in the Middle East, and the male dominant forces that are controlling the world, and been controlling the world, and been destroying the world, and been destroying Mother Earth, and so on and so forth, and everything. And how these people who are controlling the world, this male energy, is allowing this form of feminism to prosper, but really it's a lot of the feminism today is not reminiscent of the feminine of the past. So that's what I want to talk about. And I'm not saying the feminism today is not needed. It is definitely needed. It's definitely needed. But I think that the way people are expressing themselves in this new era of feminism is angry. It's angry, and when you express yourself in anger, you're gonna have people that are gonna be angry against you, and you're gonna be people who are gonna be devices against your anger. That's just a natural response of anger, And then you argue the point that we have a right to be angry because we've been treated this way, and everything, and that's true and everything. But if you look at the feminism of the past, and you look at how the women were, they expressed something that we lost in this world, which is gentleness, which is love, which is longevity, which is unconditional love and serenity and joyfulness, and all that stuff that we need so bad in the world right now was something that was expressed. It was so a big part of the feminist movement back in the days. And the weird thing about it, it wasn't even a movement. It was something that existed since the beginning of human evolution. It was just something that was part of the human psyche. It was something that women understood as well as men understood. It was something that men respected. It was something that everyone was respected. Something that nature respected. It was something that just groomed itself to be this beautiful part of the ancient world, and continued all the way up into the coming actually of Christianity. And the coming of Christianity kind of stamped out this way of living, and the weird thing about it is the teachings of Jesus was all reminiscent of this type of feminism. When Jesus, there's so many incidents in the Bible that he used gentleness to illustrate points and everything, and also use women as analogies to express his opinion and his points and stuff. And he was very much a true feminist, but he approached it in a real gentle way, in a really organic way, in a really primal way, and everything, which is lost in on today's feminism. It's gone. And I'm not saying anyone's at fault at it. I'm just saying that that's the obvious result of a modern world. The modern world is going to teach us to be angry. It's going to teach us to the only option we have, the viable option we have, is to be angry, and it's to fight, and it's to shout because no one's listening to us. So we have to shout over the rooftops to be heard. So our natural inclination towards anger is going to be manifest in anything that we participate in, even if it's good or it's bad, it's going to come out in an angry way and stuff and everything. And so reading these books that I was reading, especially the when God Was a Woman, was just so beautiful. It's this cascade of love dripping over my heart, and I felt this feeling many, many years ago. And as I was reading, I go, I am a witch to the end, so I die. Even though I consider myself a Christian, but I'm very skeptical about being a Christian this day and age, obviously with the stuff that's going on in the Middle East. And also I'm starting to realize something that is prevalent, and that is that this world, the reason why it's so evil, the reason why there's so much tumultuousness, the reason why there's so much separatism, and so on and so forth, and divisiveness, divisive tendencies everywhere. The reason why, for the simple fact that men control the world. Men, in their true essence, are evil. And I don't care what race you are. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're whatever you are, Islamic, Christian, everything. I feel that the reason why the world is so evil is because men are evil, and men participate in evil things, man. The lust of the eye, the lust of the soul, the lust of the heart, and it's all those things are being promoted by the male entity, and so it's wicked, it's wicked. And there was a time in antiquity when women controlled the world. I shouldn't even say control the world. That's not even really suitable word to describe what I'm trying to illustrate. They were in harmony with the world, and they walk with the gods, they walk with the angels, they walk with the fairies, and they express everything through kindness and gentleness, and motherly nurturement, and also military superiority as well. A lot of these women were warriors, and there's something you never hear in history. There was a time when women were warriors. There was a time when women went into battle and women fought and everything. And I know you could argue the point, but what's the difference of the modern era of feminism, that women are, being warrior like too? That should be permissible if that was something that existed in the past. But it was very different in the past. In the past, the women were leaders. In this day and age, the women are not given leader positions, and when a woman takes a leader position, people in so opposition to her, and people war against it. Not only the male species wars against it, but women within the same fraction and the same groups war against one another out of jealousy. And that's going on so much everywhere and stuff. And so it's a different type of warlike mentality, it's more reminiscent of what men do, it's more like a reflection of what men are doing. The modern feminists are mimicking what men are doing and being like a lot of respects just like men and everything. And I think that back in antiquity, it wasn't like that. Women were separate, they were apart from men, and they were they were on like a plateau. They were like on a higher level and a higher realm spiritually, but militarily as well. You could look into his own history and everything, and I think that that's beautiful. And in the book I was reading, it talks a lot about magic, and it talks a lot about fairies. And I know people think that fairies, we're talking about Lord of the Rings and everything. I love Lord of the Rings, peace on Lord of the Rings. But the fairies that they're talking about is this entity called the Feta. And the Feta is actually the earliest translation is a French word, but it means Feta, which means, it means mystical and to sparkle. And so basically it means illumination. If you think of something that's sparkling, something that's illuminating light and everything, that's what it is. So it's anybody that sparkles and illuminates that light. You think of like the Illuminati. People talk about conspiracy theories and Illuminati. The word Illuminati means to sparkle. It means to shine. It means to shimmer. That's what that word actually means. It means someone that has knowledge, and that knowledge shines through them and stuff. So you even have these Rosicrucian and Freemasonry groups to adapted that word to sparkle, to shine, to shimmer, which means actually fairy, feta. That's a French word. So that's what it really means. And when you have like knowledge to bestow on the world, and you have some type of hidden, you know, innerness that you want to give to the world that's going to heal the world, you are sparkling a light onto the world. And Jesus actually even talk about that in the Bible when he said, "Be a lamp unto the world, for man is in darkness, and they should see a light on the hill, and not be shrouded in darkness, but will be able to walk through the world and through the illumination of light." Jesus said that in the Bible, and he didn't quite say it like that, but that's what he was going with that verse in the Bible and everything. And also that's what Buddha said too. And to be awakened is to see the light, to be illuminated by this awakening light, and not be sleepy and be in darkness when you're sleeping and when you're resting and your eyes are closed, but to have your eyes open and seeing the light and be illuminous. That's what the word actually Buddha actually means. It means the Buddha means to be enlightened, to be open. So that's in every religion, it's in every philosophical, even Socrates and Pythagoras, all the great Greek philosophers, they talk about this light, this part of energy. And now that became science, what we perceive as science right now. Science has been proven over and over that the energy in the universe can't be destroyed and doesn't have a beginning, it doesn't have an end. And that's also a biblical terminology when Jesus said the omega and the alpha and the omega. That means the beginning and the end, meaning that I wasn't born and I'm not going to die, that I've been existence from a millennium and I just continue to exist. That's exactly the description of energy. When Jesus described that, Jesus in a scientific way was saying, "I'm just pure energy," and also like Krishna consciousness. I went to the Krishna temple the other day, and I got to tell you, I gotta be honest, and this will prompt me making this video blog as well. I said I was so enlightened, man. I just felt this beautiful feeling, and I would just wish all my friends would go to the Krishna temple and just spend a little time. You don't have to convert to Krishna consciousness, but just go and spend a little time. You would be so transformed. I was so transformed, and I realized in Krishna consciousness is all about divinity of light. That's what it's all about. It all entails that. Like that's this one famous verse, and not only in Christian consciousness theology, but also in all Hindu theology, that it states that we are much more than our body. If you talk to an Indian person, and you're going on about all your anxieties and all your ADHD and autism and all the weird stuff that people have and everything, and say, well, I have this, and you define yourself by these pathologies that you have, a Hindu person, a right spiritual minded Hindu person will tell you, that you are more than your body, because we so self identify with our body. We so self identify with our sickness and with our tumultuousness and with our pathology. We do that on a daily, and that is something that has been promoted by the educational systems and the religious institutions. And that's where we get things like Catholic guilt from, and that's where we get brimstone Christianity and evangelical divinity, so on and so forth. We get all those things from that, identifying with some type of illness that we had that we need to be fixed by some outside entity, hence Jesus and God and everything. But really, that is just the outward appearance. That has nothing to do with the inner. The inner is connected to the Alpha and the Omega. The inner is connected to the spiritual. It's connected to the energy that doesn't cease, that doesn't die, that continues to flow through the universe and also creates as it flows through the universe. We are all part of the creation, the creative force of the universe. We are no different. That you ever watch that video by the small dot? That's one of the best videos ever made I ever saw in my life and everything. But it's made by Carl Sagan, who I idolize. Carl Sagan. You know who he is. He was an astronomer that was the director of the planetarium in New York City, and he had this show called The Cosmos. He died a really long time ago, but he had a show called The Cosmos, and he did this one episode called that smooth blue dot. Just look that up and just look at that video. It's so amazing. But he talks about the Earth and everything. But he starts off every time he started his show off, he always started off with these words: "We are stardust," and that's true. We are. We're stardust. We're no more than stardust, and everything else is a trick of the mind, and everything. And then I know you can argue a point. Well, we have validation, we have love, we raise families, we have friends, we care for things, we try to make the world a better place, and all those things are significant. But all those things are very small. Those are all small, minute, tiny, different types of things that are just tiny, small, and in a lot of respects insignificant because they come and go with the passing of time. They're connected to time, they're governed by time. But when he's talking about we are stardust, that is something totally different. That is something that we have in us. That is something that's keeping us alive, and it's something that never ages, and something that's immortal. And when our body dies and becomes dust to the earth, then that energy becomes part of the primal energy, and we flow through the universe, and we go to different worlds, and we create different civilizations, and that's what we do. And people never think about that. People never think about that. They never think about how important they are in the spiritual sense. They only think about how important they are in the physical, organic, gross matter sense, which is temporal. It's temporary. It's going to fade away. It's going to die. It's going to amount to nothing in the end. And also what's fueling our thoughts of that is our egos. Our egos is lying to us, and our egos are telling us that we are significant in our temporary form, which is not true. Our temporary form lasts for how long? 70 years, 75 years, 80 years if you're healthy. Other than that, we die. And then where do we end up when we die? We end up on the earth, and we feed the earth. We become just food. We become soil. We become manure for the earth. That's what we become. That's what the human species becomes when we finish our sojourn on earth and everything. But the spiritual essence of who we really are inside goes on forever, and we unite it with that creative force, and we flow through the universe. There's a book, if anyone interested in what I'm talking about, this part of my video blog, is there's a book called Starseed Transmission. It's a very important book. It's written by a guy named Ken Carey, and he written this book in the late 70s, and something happened to this guy where he was contacted by aliens, and the aliens gave him all this information about his origins and where he came from, and so on and so forth, and also the true essence and spirituality of the human race and everything. And that book is really amazing. But he goes into details, and anyone that feels like they're a star seed, that's actually a separate video blog I'm gonna make. I'm gonna make a video blog about star seeds, what it means to be a star seed. I'm a star seed, and I'm sure a lot of people watching this video is a star seed. A lot of goths are star seeds. A lot of trans people are star seeds, and we're just out there, man. We like a beautiful entity, and everything. But that's another video blog. But this book, The Starseed Transmission, talks a lot about the star seed and what it means to be a star seed and everything. But what I was trying to connect with this video blog, I was getting into like the light, the essence of the true light and everything. And like getting back to my original assessment of witchcraft and witchery and everything, when the witches were one with the fairies, they was the one with the light. It was trying to teach the world through this illumination and sparkle of light. And every religion, every spiritual path, every celestial spiritual path teaches the same philosophy. It's just they teach it more deeper, like in the Starseed Transmission. They speak about it more intensely, they speak about it more deeply, and they get into more detail what it means to be a starseed, what it means to be, Pleiadian, because that's another word, Pleiadian. If you don't know anything about the Pleiadian and the Pleiadian races, that's actually a cluster of stars. It is a constellation in space called the Pleiadians. It's the closest to our Milky Way, and we could pretty much see it with a telescope from Earth and everything. And a lot of people believe that the human race actually comes from that cluster of stars in space. And certain people that realize that when they actually living on Earth, those are people that are awoken to their true origins of being Pleiadian people or being part of the Pleiadian race. And those people are actually star seeds as well. And I consider myself a Pleiadian, and so I'm sure a lot of you people watching this video blog can self-identify with the Pleiadian race as well and everything. But that's a whole different video blog and everything. But it all points to one thing. It points to something that's inside of us that cannot be seen, not only by us, it can't be felt by us. It could be felt by us, but it can't be felt in the sense that we realize that that is our true origins. that are our true essence. We tend to feel the things that are on the surface, like we tend to feel our emotions, we tend to feel our brain, bubbling in our head and our egos lying to us and telling us, help making us self-identify with all these temporary things that don't last, that pass with the rain, and stuff, and don't bring us, longevity, or don't bring us true happiness, or don't connect us to the infinite, but just keeps us in this organic world, and we just get sicker and sicker and sicker. And there's a promotion of that, and it's by the species of man actually that destroy the feminine. Because when women control the world, when women were in charge, when women were the healers, when women were the teachers, when women were the astrologers and looked at the moon and taught us about the stars and so on and so forth, and when they were doing that, every human knew what light was. Every human was connected so much to divinity, so much to the light, to the point that they didn't need to war with their bodies, for the simple fact that they knew their bodies didn't matter. They knew that they were much more than their bodies, so they didn't have to use their bodies to fight other bodies in order to get dominance of the world. That became much later, when men took over the earth, when men became powerful, when men became the leaders of the so-called world and everything, and made us war intellectually with our bodies, and became warlike in that sense and everything. And you could also argue the point that that I mentioned earlier, that women fought, were military, but it was a different type of fighting they had. The type of fighting that women have in antiquity was more about the earth. It was more about protecting the earth. It was more about, if a race of people were plundering the earth, they would fight for the protection of the earth. So they wasn't fighting for the protection of their bodies. They wasn't fighting for the protections of them as a dominating force. They were fighting for the protections of the earth, to keep the earth pure and everything. So I mean, there's a lot going on, but I know I got off the subject. I got a little off of the subject and everything, and I want to get into more detail about the whole witch thing, because it's all at the end you see that it's all tied in. It's all tied into this illumination of light. It's all tied into like love. It's all tied into um just getting back to our true essence. And so someone's knocking on my door, so I'm gonna have to end this video blog and so. But when I make another video blog, I'm gonna get more into like the witchery, because I want to talk more about these books. But these books are so vast, and it just explodes my mind, and it gets me thinking about all this other stuff. And then I see the bigger tapestry, how it's all connected, and I have a knack for explaining the connection of all these different entities and so. And I know that the whole witch thing, is connected to a bigger picture and everything. And I'm going to talk about that in another video blog.